It's recess, and the Tea Party mobs are back in force. Republican lawmakers say these crowds are just people exercising their civic right to oppose the health care bill. Maybe some of them are, but a lot of them have absolutely no shame. Their conduct is deplorable. Case in point, a town hall held by Democratic Congressman Dan Lipinski in Chicago 2 weeks ago. A woman, Midge Huff, stood up to talk about how her daughter-in-law and unborn grandchild, who had recently died, they had no insurance. The Tea Party protesters shouted her down and laughed at her. Here it is.
I'd like to tell you a story. 9 weeks ago, my 24-year-old daughter-in-law died along with her 7.5-month baby that was unborn. All I want you to know, and you can laugh at me, that's okay. I get it. I get it. But I lost 2 people. And I know you think that's funny. And that's okay.
Midge Huff and her husband Dan join me now on the Ed Show tonight. Mr. and Mrs. Huff, good to have you with us. You went to that town hall meeting expecting to tell a story and have an impact, I assume. Were you shocked at how the crowd responded to you? Midge, your response, and how did you feel when you sat down?
I was shocked, Ed. I knew that I could expect some disruption, but I didn't expect that. I was there to thank Representative Lipinski and to tell them how badly we needed the public option and tell Jen's story. And the room was filled with hate, and I was just shocked by that.
Dan, were they just on a mission? It could have been any kind of a story that have gotten up there. What was your impression of all of that?
Well, the meeting started off, Representative Lipinski started to talk about why he did it, and he got a lot of catcalls and shouts, why he voted for the bill, I should say, and his concerns about the bill. But as soon as the first question session started, he called one gentleman who would not let himself be denied the first one, and it was madness from then on, with the shouting and holding up little constitutions and just ratcheting up the whole level of emotion in the room.
Midge, do you think lives would have been saved in your family had this health care bill had been in place?
Ed, without question, if there had been affordable health care, Jen and the baby would probably be with us now. There were no options for us. We checked everything out, and you know, people say go to ERs, go to free clinics, and I can tell you firsthand, you see what happened with the ER, and the free clinics are underfunded and overburdened. So this girl did not have an option. We tried to get her insurance, and because she was pregnant, it was considered a pre-existing condition.
Did anyone, Midge, come up to you after the meeting and apologize or say anything to you at all about how you were confronted with when you were trying to tell your story?
Yes. Actually, afterwards, there were about 3 people that came up to me and gave condolences, but I don't really think they were with the party. They seem to have been just neighborhood or town people there for Lipinski.
Mr. Huff, if people can't understand that compassion is needed in a scenario like this, what does it say about these protesters? I mean, when you stand up and spill your heart out and talk about how your family has been affected by the lack of health care in this country and you're heckled down, this is a level of discourse that I don't think we have seen in this country since the Civil Rights Movement. What would you say to someone who would have a compelling story to tell going to one of these meetings?
Well, I think you still have to tell it, and you're right. You see the comments because there's a video on YouTube, and it's been seen 90,000 plus times of this that we put together because I wanted people to see what happens at these meetings, and the comments are so extreme on both sides now. The rhetoric is so white hot. But even at the meeting, later on, people stood up and said, what are we going to do if we have this kind of health care reform and there's another 15 or 20 million people that get health insurance? I'm just going to have to wait longer to see a doctor. And you wonder what kind of person is it that says, I don't want more people to have coverage and have access to health care because it'll make me have to wait longer to see my doctor. That's incredibly cold, and honestly, I don't understand it. That's not the America that I grew up in, and that's not the values that I was taught or we were taught. So it's sort of an alternate reality, and I'm not sure what's behind it other than a very partisan sort of politics pushing these people to go to the extreme.
It is unbelievable.
It is.
Midge and Dan Huff, in your sorrow in the wake of what has happened to your family, God bless you, and may you, at best, somehow have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll be thinking of you.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that.
What is this country coming to? Joining me now is Roy Sekoff, founding editor of the Huffington Post. You know, Roy, I'm all about protest, but I'm also very sensitive to people who want to get up and tell a real-life story where lives are involved. What should elected officials do when stuff like this happens, Roy? Your thoughts?
Well, Ed, it's despicable. I mean, these are the people who would, heckle a eulogy at a funeral. You could just feel the hatred. And, I mean, there's an understandable anger in America. There's a lot of misery. There's a lot of suffering. And, we get the sense that the fix is in, that Wall Street is winning, that the lobbyists are winning. But they're turning, people like Beck and Michelle Bachmann are turning this understandable outrage into this ill-directed hatred, and it's frightening what we see with the all the Nazi analogies and the attacks on Obama, and then this on the Huff family. And the most outrageous part was that the Tea Partiers claimed that the story that the Huffs told was an isolated incident, and we know that that's absolutely not the case. I mean, there was that study that came out from Harvard in September that say 45,000 people a year die because they don't have access to health care. And every day on the Huffington Post, we're trying to put a human face on the consequences of the lack of health care. And the stories, Ed, they come every day, each more heart-wrenching than the next. So the idea is that, of course, we're open to debate. There's nothing wrong with discussing what is the best way to help these people. But to deny that this is even an issue, to deny that we're desperately in need of reform, is just outrageous.
Roy Sekoff, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us tonight.